Hi everyone, it's Kim from the Shamrock Quilt Studio, and I wanted to take a moment to bring you up to date on Miss Kelly. Grab a drink and we'll talk about this. And welcome back to the Shamrock Quilt Studio. Hi, and as I said, we're going to talk about Miss Kelly today. We're really close to finishing this, and this is going to be just a short video to show you where I am and how things are progressing. I'm all done with the quilting on the top of the project. I used a diagonal hash, and that is, let me make sure I got this correct because we went back and forth about this a lot. It is a 2-inch grid on this. And the grid fell everywhere on the white part, the background fabric of this. There is no quilting underneath the design for the grid. And I know I talked in other videos, but I want to just briefly touch on it, that what I found when I did that was the pieces of fabric in the applique that did not have quilting did not pull together or shrink up. They don't really shrink, but the act of pulling those pieces of fabric together through the batting causes the fabric to kind of shrink up. And I don't know if you've ever seen some of the discussion about sending your quilts off to be long-armed and them coming back and they're smaller than when they went. It's that process of quilting that kind of draws it up a little bit. So the background drew up a little bit, and the pieces of fabric that are appliqued get a little puffy. They're not drawn up, so they just stay a little puffy. So I had to go back and applique on some of the pieces inside. And just quickly, I did that on the vase, on the birds, and on the big flower to make sure that we were holding those pieces in the places that we needed them to be. And then I kind of went back to my original thought of echo quilting around all the applique. I had kind of thought I wasn't going to do it, even though the original plan was to do that. But I started on some of these pieces that were not contracting. And the more I did it, the more I liked it. So I just kept on with it. And I got to tell you that that probably was the most satisfying and enjoyable part of the quilting, because I didn't need anything to measure or keep the lines straight. I just quilted along the outside of everything on here. So that was done, and then the outside borders, we had a little bit of a problem with those because they were still at their full size. They had not contracted. So I've run a scalloped edge along this, with the bigger part of it being here at the seam between the purple and the white, and then the scallop being here. It's still got a little bit of pucker in it, and I think I'm going to try to go back and put some kind of quilting stitch here between the scallop and the edge. I've trimmed it all up so that it's square, and I have run a running stitch along the edge to show where the binding will go. It's about 1/4 inch in. It's not measured, it's just, you know, kind of thinking about where 1/4 inch is. So I think I'm going to add just a little bit more, but just something to kind of hold it down there. I think once we do that, we'll be in really good shape to add the binding. And I've already cut the binding strips. I just need to press those into half so that they can be sewed together and sewn onto this. I'm going to stitch them either on the front or the back and then fold it over in a French fold binding for this. The other thing that I did last night was, I knew we were finished with the inside fabric, So I took a damp cloth, and when I say damp, I got the whole thing wet and I wringed it out really good. So the cloth was not dripping wet. It was like a washcloth, a terry cloth. And it was wet enough so that if you pressed it hard, you were getting a good little bit of moisture out of it, but it wasn't a lot wet. It was just a little bit wet. And I just dabbed all of the stitch lines on this. And then I sat it out here. There's a ceiling fan that's running, and let the ceiling fan run and dry it out for about an hour. So then after an hour, I came back and did it again. I could look here and see, especially in some of the areas where you had the blue really saturated, or the spot was kind of large because it had bled, or you had to mark it a couple of times. Those areas required 2 treatments. So it's been done twice over the whole surface. And then today I can look and see there are a few little spots that I can still see the blue. Now if I hold this up, you're not going to be able to see the blue, but I can see it here to here. So I'm going to do that again, and I think that will probably take care of everything. In fact, I'll probably do that as soon as I finish videotaping. And then this evening I can work on more stitches here, and then maybe tomorrow bind it and be done with it. So this one is really close. I've changed my mind half a dozen times on some of this quilting along the way, and that's simply because until you do it, you don't know what it's going to look like. So you try something, it doesn't work, you try something else, or you try something that works and you're done. It just varies sometimes, but I am very pleased with it. I think if you have the opportunity here to see all the quilting on this, you'll see that it really turned out nicely. There, that's a great shot there. You can see all the quilting in here. You can see the little bit of differences in the fabric. See how that puckers just a little bit. Before it was a lot more. But you can see that they're pretty firm. This if we go back, if I were to do it again to make a second one, I would have put some padding here in this feather, this light purple one particularly, to kind of give it a little bit of a 3D texture. But at the time we were doing it, who knew? You do it the first time and that's the way it is. But why would you need to? I don't know. Maybe if you were doing this for the full quilt and you had 2 beds that you were going to put it on, maybe you would. But that's a good look at it. I'm going to try to get this finished. I've got this nice board back here now that I can hang things on, a little more finished than what we had before. So I think we're going to let this one be the star for a little while and hang up there and enjoy it. And you'll notice that the back of this is a very light purple. It's in that mottled grunge kind of fabric as well. So it's a very pretty color. For something like this, you probably wouldn't see it very much. You probably could use just about anything, but it's a good finish for it, I think. The binding's going to be in the dark purple, and we'll be wrapping this up soon. I thank you so much for staying with me through this project. I hope you enjoyed it. I have heard from some viewers that they tried to use the link to get the pattern, and I did notice that the designer that has the Etsy shop has been on vacation, or she's got her shop in vacation mode. So I would encourage you to check back, maybe give it a few days and check back and see if you can hook up with that link at that time and get your patterns ordered, because it is just gorgeous, and it's great to be able to support a fellow quilter and a quilt pattern designer. Again, thank you for joining me, and if you like this project, this video, give us a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next time at the Shamrock Quilt Studio.